There is a particular kind of emptiness that arrives not when things go wrong, but when everything is, by most measures, fine. The job is okay, the relationships are okay, you are fed and housed and safe. Nothing is broken, nothing is on fire, and yet something feels hollow, like you are going through the motions of a life without fully inhabiting it, like you are watching yourself from a slight distance, wondering when you will feel something real. If you have ever felt this way and struggled to explain it even to yourself, this video was made for you. We are very good as a society at acknowledging the loud kinds of pain, grief, heartbreak, failure. These have names, they have rituals, people know how to hold them. But this quieter thing, this low hum of emptiness that lives underneath an otherwise ordinary life, this one is harder to name. And what we cannot name, we cannot understand. And what we cannot understand, we cannot move through. So let us begin by naming it. What you are describing, this sense of going through life without fully feeling it, has a name in psychology. It is called anhedonia, a word that comes from the Greek, an, meaning without, hedon, meaning pleasure. Anhedonia is not depression exactly, though it can accompany it. It is not sadness. It is the quiet absence of joy, the dimming of the very things that used to light you up, the music that no longer moves you, the meal that no longer tastes like anything, the conversation that used to energize you, now just tiring. It is, in its most simple form, a disconnection, not from the world, from yourself. Now, understanding why this happens is not just interesting. It is the first step toward changing it. There are 3 doors this feeling tends to walk through. The first is autopilot. At some point, and this happens gradually, so gradually you rarely notice, many of us begin to live our lives in response to what is expected of us, rather than what is true for us. We take the job that makes sense on paper. We show up in the way that keeps the peace. We pursue the milestones, the degree, the promotion, the relationship, the apartment, because these are the things we were told constitute a good life. And then one day, standing in the middle of the life we were supposed to want, we feel nothing. This is autopilot, and the emptiness it creates is not a malfunction, it is a signal. It is the self knocking from the inside, asking to be let back in. The second door is suppression. Unfelt emotions do not disappear. This is one of the most important things psychology has ever taught us. When we push feelings down, grief we never processed, anger we were told was unacceptable, fear we were too busy to sit with, they do not dissolve. They compress. They go underground. And underground, they do something very specific. They dull everything. Because the mind cannot selectively numb. When you suppress the pain, you also suppress the joy. The grief you refuse to feel also takes the wonder with it. The anger you swallowed also swallowed your aliveness. Emptiness, then, is sometimes not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of too many feelings buried so deep that none of them can surface. The third door is the post-achievement void. You worked for something, you reached it, and instead of the joy you expected, instead of the fullness, the arrival, the feeling of finally, there was nothing, or something very close to nothing. This experience has confused people for as long as people have existed. The ancient Stoics wrote about it. Modern psychology studies it. And yet we are still surprised every time it happens to us. Here is what we now know. The brain is a goal-seeking organ. It is energized by the pursuit. The dopamine system fires in anticipation, not in arrival. The moment you reach the destination, the system quiets, and in that quiet, emptiness can flood in. This is not a failure of the goal, it is a feature of the mind, and knowing that changes everything. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world and a man who struggled deeply with this exact feeling, wrote in his private journal the book we now call Meditations. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Now, this is often misread as a dismissal of suffering, as if Marcus was saying, just think better thoughts, and you will feel better. That is not what he meant. What he meant was this: the emptiness we feel when our external life does not match our internal truth is not solved by acquiring more, a bigger achievement, a new relationship, a different city. These things change the set. They do not change the actor. The Stoics believed that meaning, genuine, lasting meaning, could only be found in what they called virtue. Not virtue in the moral sense we use today. Virtue, for them, meant living in alignment with your deepest nature, acting in accordance with your values, being, as much as possible, fully and honestly yourself. And here is the uncomfortable truth that follows. The emptiness many of us feel is the distance between who we are performing and who we actually are. So, what do you do with this? The first thing, and I want to say this clearly, is to resist the urge to immediately fix it. We live in a world that treats every discomfort as a problem to be solved in the next 15 minutes. Download this app, follow this routine, take this supplement, and while there is nothing wrong with tools, the emptiness you feel is not a bug. It is a conversation your inner life is trying to have with you. Before you silence it, consider listening to it. Ask yourself, and take your time with this, perhaps write it down, where in my life am I living for someone else's idea of who I should be? Not dramatically, not necessarily in the big things. Sometimes it is quiet. A friendship you maintain out of obligation. A role you play at work that has nothing to do with who you actually are. A version of yourself you perform in social settings that exhausts you to sustain. The second question: what have I been feeling that I have not allowed myself to feel? Sit with that one. Grief that was never grieved, disappointment that was never acknowledged, anger that was swallowed. These things are still there, waiting with patience that you did not know they had. And the third: what would feel meaningful, not impressive, not productive, not responsible, but genuinely, quietly meaningful to me? These three questions will not resolve the emptiness overnight, but they will begin to make it legible. And once it is legible, it begins to lose its power. Emptiness is not the absence of feeling. It is the feeling of being disconnected from yourself. And unlike happiness, which can depend on circumstances, connection is something that can always be rebuilt. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in small acts of honesty, in choosing one moment at a time to stop performing and start inhabiting. You are not hollow, you are not broken. You are someone who has been living at a slight distance from yourself, and who, in watching this video, has perhaps taken the first small step back. If this video reached something in you, share it with someone who might need it. And if you are new here, this channel exists for exactly this: the questions that matter most, explored with honesty, depth, and care. I will see you in the next one. Until then, keep searching within yourself.